The name is my soul, the place where the red practice of grace will rise till you say that I can't find my own way home.
Hey! You still there, Malakit? Does everything sound okay? Can you hear the microphone and the music okay? Well, who knows? I can look at... kind of see the levels bouncing around. Looks okay. So, I've never tried doing this before. I've never tried a live stream, and yeah, I hope it goes okay. I can see a video of myself, and it's really distracting. So I'm just gonna go so I don't see that. All right. Yeah, so I thought normally when I make the Eurorack DIY videos, like I spend hours filming everything, and I try to edit it down to just like a quick. I'm trying to get it to 5 minutes now, but I was earlier trying to get it down to about 20 minutes, and yeah, so I spend so much time shooting these. I thought maybe it would be cool to just try live streaming one. It's not going to be very exciting because this is a really slow process, but I figured out how to stream some music, so I have a whole playlist of my music from various projects. This that's playing right now is my band that I was in about 15 years ago. This was really like where like the early part of my music career kind of peaked. Like I had been in some bands in high school, all of this, but then when I was in my 20s, I was in this band Small Space, and yeah, it really meant a lot to me. It was kind of the best part of my early music career, and I'm really proud of this album. No Matter was released in 2005, and it did okay on the charts at the time, college music charts, and we were touring all around the US, and yeah, you know, eventually things just kind of went away. If anyone sticks around long enough, there's some unreleased demos from Small Space later on, as well as like a whole ton of domestic scene stuff, which is where I got back into making music after 15 years of not making music. I started doing the domestic scene thing, and that's been for about 2.5 years, and I've made a bunch of songs in the meantime, so I hope you like them, because they're going to be playing. If you have trouble hearing me over the music, let me know. Like, I don't have a direct monitor of what it sounds like. I'm just hoping that it's working. So, anyway, so let's get into this build. First of all, I need to remember to turn on the second camera, because I am actually filming this for a more edited YouTube video. What I would normally do is spend like 3 hours making one of these things, and then condense that all into about a 3 or 4 minute time lapse, which looks really cool. But yeah, I gotta shoot that. So turn this camera on, and we can get started with an unboxing of the North Coast Synthesis MSK 007 Leapfrog VCF. So what I've heard about the North Coast Synthesis kits is that their instructions are really good. It looks like you gotta go online to get those instructions. So what comes in the kit is just the bags with all of the components, then the faceplate and the PCBs, and it says extra goodies, so we'll find out what that is. Oh wow. Cool. So yeah, this is a solid aluminum faceplate, looks nice. Lots of resistors and other capacitors. Those are strange capacitors. Trim pots, power headers, standoffs, knobs, PCBs, and as usual, a sticker. this looks like the ICs and IC sockets, some diodes. And there's our extra goodies. Maybe you can see that. It's a tarot card. Right, so I guess I'll just get stuck into it. I like to organize everything first. Makes it a lot easier. So we got 3 PCBs here. Cable ties. Power. And I'll start by organizing the resistors. Yeah, so if anyone's here, this is probably my favorite song off this album. I used to really love playing this one. It was funny, in Small Space, everybody in the band played multiple instruments, so during our live sets, everyone switched up all the time, and I always played bass on that song, even though normally I played guitar in the band. I think the only person that never switched instruments was our drummer. He's still playing drums. His name's Chris Morse. Really good dude. A lot of the guys from that band are still together. They started a company. Initially, it was like a retail back-end thing, but I did not get involved in that, and eventually moved overseas. So there's no real chance that I ever will. Okay. Yeah, so these resistors are just a big tangled pile right now. This is why I like to organize them first, because when I start soldering, I really like to be able to just get into a flow state and keep going. And trying to dig through a messy pile like this, or even trying to dig through a bag, is a little bit distracting for me. I'd rather just typically I put all my resistors on the side, and I can just go one after the other after the other. I like how these ones all came labeled. Oftentimes with a kit, the resistors, a lot of times they come labeled like this, but sometimes they come in bags where it just says the value of the resistor on the outside of the bag with the quantity, so then you have to do a little bit of, not guesswork, but you have to it's like a matter of eliminating the possibilities. So if you see that there's 4 10K resistors in a bag and 6 100K resistors, the resistors that are only 4, you have to then assume that those are 10K, and that little bit of uncertainty slows me down when I'm building a kit like this. So that's one of the things that I often take some time to just write all of the values on the side of the resistors. And then I can go a lot faster once I start actually building things. Okay, so this bag has, ICs, some diodes, a couple of different values. Diodes, I believe, just kind of let electricity flow through in a single direction. So they're used kind of to protect circuits a lot, and they're also LEDs are actually diodes. Yeah, so that's quite a lot of ICs. I keep forgetting that I'm doing a live stream. So it's all the ICs and all the IC sockets, and IC sockets are really important for. They're not necessary. That's the thing. You don't need them, but they really help, because if you make a mistake, the first thing that's probably going to get ruined is your IC, and having a socket on there means that you don't have to like undo any solder. If you blow one, you can just pull it off and replace it. So it's smart to use those if you have the chance. This is a lot of transistors. So there's something about the design of this filter. It's got a really steep cutoff, and I have a feeling that all of these transistors have something to do with however that filter design was put together. In the website, they kind of point out that most filters are just variations on a couple of different styles, most notably the Moog style ladder filters, and that this particular filter is based off of newer technology, newer scientific equipment. So it has a super steep cutoff, and then where the cutoff hits the the low point in its slope, so loud to quiet, where it's cutting off the frequency, it actually does this little bounce at a musically significant ratio, and I think that's where the name Leapfrog is coming from. So if you see a diagram of the slope falls off a cliff and then bounces around a little bit. So this is a lot of resistors. That's nice, because that's my favorite part. And yeah, so I've never seen, maybe you can see that, I've never seen these before. I'm fairly sure those are ceramic capacitors, but I've never seen them like this. It's just like a little ceramic bead on the wire, which is interesting, notable. Man, I don't have room for all of this. So yeah, I was thinking this would be a great one to stream, because I thought it was not going to actually be very big, not that many components, but I'm a little surprised by how much is in this bag. So far, none of it looks intimidating, but it's a lot, so I might be here a while. So these are a ton of trim pots that I'm organizing right now. And what that says to me is that this might be a lot of calibration. What is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 trim pots. So that's 13 basically resistors, I think, that are adjustable. So it would adjust everything from the range of the cutoff in the frequency. So you'd want to adjust it so that the low end of your knob sweep is basically around 20 or 30 hertz at the bottom of the audible frequency range, and then the top end of your frequency sweep would be 20,000 hertz or something, and more than that, I don't know, upper end of what you can hear. But there's other parameters, clearly, that also get calibrated on this. Probably, does this have CV? Yeah, this has some sort of CV input, which I'm assuming would control the frequency of the cutoff. It's got some FM stuff, and it has a VCA built in, which is pretty slick. So yeah, all of those things probably. So the in probably is got an adjustment on it for level. Volt per octave needs to be calibrated so that it tracks, and like 1 octave actually is 1 volt in CV. We'll get there. Okay, so the 1/8 inch jacks are not your typical Thonkacon style jack. Maybe you can see this on the stream. They've got these little round terminals. That's a little unusual. Everything about North Coast Synthesis's modules looks a little unusual to me. They look really industrial. They kind of look like scientific equipment. And I don't know if that's just the aesthetic or if that's the inspiration. But yeah, they're a bit different than most modules that I've built so far. Okay. So, a ton of standoffs. We'll put these over here. And then our headers, which are going to connect the boards together. One of these is going to be a power header. And screws for the standoffs, and probably for mounting it in your Euro rack system. Now look at, I'm assuming that robot emoji is basically your impression of me right now. Because I'm sure a robot could actually do all of this. But there's something great about building these modules myself. I hadn't done any electronics. I hadn't soldered anything at all before last September. I remember specifically that it was around September that I did the first one because it's the last time I went on vacation, and I had put up a video saying that I was going to start doing these right before I went on vacation, and that's how I know it hasn't quite been a year since I started doing this. And yeah, I found I really enjoy it. Find it kind of meditative to work on these projects. And then the feeling of having a module when I'm done that is, mine. I have this Eurorack system that I've been mixing a lot lately with the work that I do on a Deluge, and it makes my little rig feel unique. It feels like it's completely my thing. So I'm really happy that I did this, and I know that every part of that Eurorack, including the case, is something that I've built myself. And I don't know, there's nothing that really can compare with that feeling. But of course, I'm the type of guy that likes to build things. Went to school for woodworking back in the day, back when I was in this band that's playing right now. Went to an art school in Michigan called Kendall College of Art and Design. So I got my degree in woodworking and functional art, and then never did any woodworking or functional art after school because a wood shop costs a lot of money, and I didn't have any after college, and I didn't know how I was going to make any just doing speculative work building weird artsy furniture. So I kind of gave it up, but it's always stuck with me. I'm glad that I went to school. I learned a lot at the art school. Like pretty much everything that I did there still applied to everything that I've done since. I've always had like this mix between music and art as like, it's the core of what where my interests are. So looks like at this point pretty much ready to start building. I'm going to open up the instructions. We go online for that, northcoastsynthesis.com. This is pretty lame to stream myself just searching online for instructions. So, DIY tab, I assume. Leapfrog VCF, user build manual with schematics. You can kind of get like a lot of the personality of the people that design these modules by the way they write their instructions. And I've heard that the instructions for this are pretty thorough. So it's loading up, but I'm pretty sure that I don't need to wait too long for that, because there's just a standard flow to how you would put together a module. So each of the PCBs needs to be built in such a way that pretty much the lowest standing components, the things that sit the closest to the surface of the board, should go on first, and then you successively build up in height. So typically you're looking at resistors first, or sometimes the diodes are even a little bit thinner than the resistors. So you put the diodes and resistors on, and those are pretty flat to the board in most cases. Sometimes resistors are designed so that they stand up, and you wouldn't want to start with those ones. But then after the resistors, a lot of times capacitors are the slightly taller thing, working yourself up towards things like the pots, the potentiometers, which clearly would stand pretty high off the board. So if you put that on first and then needed to put a little tiny resistor on next to it, you'd be like, I mean, you might not even be able to get your soldering iron in to do it. But if you were, it would still be a tight fit, so it would be tough. So that's why you work yourself up, starting with kind of like the standard low-lying components. And if your project has surface mount parts, which are the ones that don't even have a hole that it goes through, it just, you lay it right on there and solder it directly on the surface. You would start with those, because those are pretty small typically. I think there's a few people here. If anyone has any questions about anything specifically, let me know. Or there's no people. I'm trying not to look at that because it's pretty intimidating to be streaming in the first place, much less thinking about like whether or not people are actually asking or watching. So I'm just like going with the flow and trying to just relax and do what I know. So yeah, the first 10 pages of this manual are like a book, ending with safety and other warnings. I wish I had read this before I started, because not that I'm concerned about this build, but what I heard about these kits is that the North Coast Synthesis kits is basically like an education. There's a whole lot of information that I'm looking at here about electronics, and like I'm picking up a little bit here and there as I'm building stuff, and I'm understanding all of it a bit better, and in my spare time I'm reading about stuff, but there's still a lot. There's a lot to know, and clearly North Coast Synthesis has provided a lot. So then we get through the bill of materials, and then building board 3. Fixed resistors. Wow. So these instructions need to... Yeah, this is not the kind of thing that I can glance at. This whole thing is a book. So to do this as a stream, I'm pretty much going to have to rely on a lot of my intuitive knowledge, but I'll be double checking things, I'm sure. So it says to start with board 3. This is where I got to get my reading glasses. Which, by the way, pro tip, if you're ever soldering a PCB, don't be embarrassed to put on reading glasses or some sort of magnification, because everything's really small, and it does help. And it does help protect your eyes a bit. Really, I should probably have proper goggles, but I do not. Okay, so I'm just getting to the part preliminary instructions. It says count everything. It says there's 11 multi-turn trimmers, which were the things I was talking about before. It says before installing them, use an ohm meter to adjust each one to 50% of its range. Measure the resistance along the track, and then measure the resistance from the wiper to one end to adjust to make... Wow. Yeah. So I was really looking forward to doing this one because yeah, I heard that the instructions were so thorough, but looking at it and being on a live stream, now I'm doubting the wisdom of choosing this module. So I'll just try to look for the main things that I need to do. So we need to start with board 3, which is listed on the board. That's board. I think it's listed on here. Yeah. So this is board 1 of 3, 2 of 3. This one's board 3. Must be. Yeah, 3 of 3. So I had them backwards. Alright. So many of the resistors on board 3 have special 3-pin footprints as shown below. Wow. Yeah, holy crap. Okay, this might be damn near impossible to see on the stream, but these resistors have three holes, and you only use 2 of them. It's so that on every single resistor you have a choice of connecting to positive or negative input of an op amp, so the pad you should use for the default response curve is always the pad with the square corners, which may be near or farther away depending on the individual footprint. So yeah, again, probably impossible to see on a stream, but of all of those ones that have a choice of where you want to connect it, there's these circular metal pads and square metal pads. So if you wanted to do the standard response curve, which is what I'm going to do, you choose the square. Alright. Circular pad should not be used. Huh. So here's where I gotta make a decision of whether or not I'm just gonna risk it and start soldering without reading quite so much, because this is paragraphs worth of information. Huh. Yeah, I feel a bit nervous about this. So, okay, we're definitely starting with board 3, so get rid of these. If I have questions about any of these, I will then look it up. Alright, so yikes. So I wanted to do this live stream to kind of just like show that building these kits is not super intimidating. I think I'm doing the opposite of that, but it's just that this particular kit, normally like a kit just has like pictures that you can glance over at and says like put this one here, put this one here, and it's pretty easy. But this one has like a lot of adjustments and a lot of calibration and a lot of choices, and I don't think that anyone would do it wrong. It's just that I'm skimming the information, so that's where I'm getting nervous, because in case I miss something important. I'm really gonna read this later. Alright, whatever. So, let's go through the bill of materials, starting with the resistors like you would do. And go for it. So we need a 1K. On board 3, there is precisely 2 vertical multi-turn. Okay. So 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, we'll just do something here. So when you have a bunch of resistors in the tape like this, it's usually faster just to chop a little bit of the legs off to get them out of the tape. You could just pull the tape off, but it takes a little longer than just cutting. Okay, so then when you have your resistor, you just bend it into a U shape, like that, and then it goes into the holes on the board. So starting here, we got R16 through R21. And then the values are actually printed on the board as well, so that's usually pretty helpful. R18. God, this is fascinating video content, isn't it? This is why when I make these videos, I do this for hours, and then I do a time lapse that puts it all into like 3 minutes, because this can be glacial in its pace. And this is also why I find the process kind of fun and meditative. That was R19, R20. Where are you? There it is. R20. What are we going to? R21. Yeah, so the music playing now is the first EP that I put out under the Domestic Scene name. This one was mostly made in Ableton. And yeah, when I was really learning, I didn't know anything about electronic music when I started this. I got myself a copy of Reaper because that's what I used when I was in Small Space to make weird noises. Back in our old studio, we would program some stuff with Reaper, and that's what I remembered. So I started with that and pretty quickly switched over to Ableton, although there's still stuff that I like quite a bit about Reaper. R45. Mixing in Reaper nowadays, before the new version, the edition before it became a plugin, the mixer was great. From my perspective. So, skip a bunch, go to R45. It might even be easier if I just like read this board, because every single one of them lists the value. I keep trying to find the actual reference number rather than just reading, oh, there's a 1K resistor that goes right there, which is easy enough. Yep. And so normally I'd go through and put almost all the resistors on unless it was getting too busy, but I'm going to switch over after putting these 1K resistors on and actually start soldering a bit just to switch it up. So, do we have power? Well, this is why you need to check your equipment before you start. Hang on. I forgot that I unplugged that one last time I was doing music jam. So it's on, soldering iron is heating up. This particular soldering iron, it's got a nice controller station, but it is not, I wouldn't probably recommend it. It's one of the style of soldering irons where the tip is not, it's not really like reading the temperature at the tip of this thing, so you have to kind of like turn it up to a hotter temperature on the control in order for the tip to get hot enough. So it's reading the temperature back here. So I have it set pretty high at 390 Celsius, which is way more than you technically need for soldering. But I lose heat by the time it gets to the tip, so I have to compensate for that. And I've just kind of found that this temperature seems to flow okay. So when you're soldering, you want to make contact between the leg of the component and the pad on the board that it's going to connect to. Let it heat up for a moment. Tin the tip so it's a little bit better at transferring the heat. So you let both heat up at the same time and then apply your solder. And take the solder away, take the soldering iron away. And you can see the solder kind of like flow down into the component pad. And in the end, you want your solder joint to look smooth, and it kind of has like a volcano shape to it. And if it doesn't have that kind of smooth volcano shape, then there's a chance that what you've done is kind of like soldered, got the solder onto like the component leg, but not actually got enough heat into the pad on the board, so that the connection there is not solid. There might be like a really kind of like hairline crack that makes the transmission of the electricity through the circuit unreliable. And oftentimes when there is an issue with a build that you're doing, the first thing you should do is just take a look at all of your joints, and anything that looks even remotely dodgy, just put your soldering iron back on it, let everything heat back up and flow together. That's called reflowing your joints. And in almost every situation that I've had where I was having issues with a build, just reflowing the joints fixed it. And that's good to know, because troubleshooting is probably your friend, particularly when you're starting out, but I mean really anytime. I guess you would get better and better at troubleshooting as you get more experience, to be honest. Obviously. But I think experience with building these sorts of kits doesn't equal you never making mistakes. So knowing how to fix your mistakes is always a good thing. General life rule, right? So the first thing that you need to learn about building a Euro rack module DIY kit in the fixing your mistakes category is to just reflow your joints first. That's the first thing you should do if you're having trouble. Of course, you should also, do continuity tests with your multimeter, things like that. Make sure that there's no shorts, and you can do that by kind of testing where the power cable connects to the power header. You can run continuity tests. One side is positive voltage, one side's negative voltage, and actually the three other pins are all ground. And you shouldn't have any connections between the positive and the negative. So if you are testing your power at the pin header, and you get a tone when you're touching one of your multimeter I don't know what you would call those, the red and the black thing on the multimeter, when you're touching the metal to that power header, you'll get a tone if there is a connection, and you don't want the positive connected to the negative at all. Yeah. So those are the first two troubleshooting tips. That's about all I got, because that's all the trouble I've gotten into so far. So once you get your component soldered on, then it's always just cleaning up these. You want all of these legs out of the way because they poke you in the knuckles if you're doing more stuff. I found having like a little thing like this to use as a trash can is really useful. Alright, so that was one little bit of the resistors. How are we doing? Let's see if anyone's even in this stream. Says there's a few people here. Who knows? say hi if you're actually hanging out. Be nice to know. Mellow Kit was here. He said goodbye. Totally get it. If he's still there, I say goodbye back. Yeah, if you haven't seen any of Mellow Kit's music, he's got a YouTube channel himself. He's been putting out a ton of music lately. Really, really good stuff. So I suggest that you check out Mellow Kit if you get the chance. Okay, so what are we doing next? So that was our 10 1K resistors. There's another 1K. Now that I cut that off. I'm 95% sure that this is the 1Ks, but I cut off the note where it was actually labeled, so just to be safe, I'm going to test it. And when you do this, you can read, I have it set to the resistance or the ohm meter, and I can see that it's 1.001K of resistance. So yeah, that's our 1K, and I'll relabel it. I have a pen. One sec. So there's another 1K resistor that goes on R34. That's a vertical multi-turn. So I think that's not something that I want to do starting out. Is that going to be, where is R30? R34. I'll take a look at that. Yeah, so looking at all of the regular spots that a resistor would go, oh, I see, the multi-turn, oh, that's the trim pot. Okay, never mind, that's not standard resistor. Okay, no worries then. So 2K resistors are, got 6 of them, so they must be over here. Right? Or did I misplace them? "2K multi-turn." Oh man. The way it's labeled, the trim pots at a glance look like the resistors because they're just labeled as 2 kilo ohms. You have to actually read the notes to see that that's not what it means. So we'll need the 3.6K. And that's not super clearly labeled, so I'm just gonna check it again. Yeah, 3.6K, close enough. So that one goes in R3. There we are. So another thing, if you haven't done any soldering but you'd like to, Some parts are polarized and some parts aren't. So resistors are not polarized, which means you can put them in either direction with the legs going into either one of the holes. But some parts you need to be careful about the orientation. There's a positive and a negative side. 4.3. This must be it. Oh, yeah. So if you're here, if you're listening to this music, this is super rare. This might be the first time anybody, other than like really close loved ones outside of small space, has heard this. Some demos that we were recording for our second album 15 years ago, and we never actually finished the album and never put any of these out. And I've never played them for anyone, but I was making a playlist, and after 15 years I figured, screw it. There's not going to be many people here, so I can play these ultra rare demo recordings. So this is one of those ones where I go to the square pad instead of the circular pad, but apparently if I want to change something later, I can change that and go to the circular pad to change the response curve of the filter, which is pretty interesting. $6K. So on this board, see circular tonic. What'd you say? Yeah, definitely. It's always good to double check. I oftentimes, since I'm making videos, don't spend a lot of time. Well, I'll either do it all ahead of time and label them myself, or yeah, if I have a question in the middle of the build, then I'll check it. But yeah, it is a good thing to check those out. Thanks for stopping by the way. I hope this is like vaguely interesting. Like when I saw the instructions for this build, if you were here at the time, like mild panic attack, because this is not the kind of build document that you can just kind of glance at and know there's a lot of detail in it. Every time I hear this demo, like I have a really clear memory of the day that we were like doing these gang vocals in the studio. It was like everybody in the band plus our buddy Nate, who was like engineering for us that day, and our friend, another friend who was there. We were all like in this semicircle around a couple of microphones shouting. I don't know why. That's like one of the strongest memories of being in that recording studio that I have. Pretty sure everyone was high. Yeah, I was really happy that these were all labeled, but now I'm finding that it's kind of hard to read the labels. Normally I wouldn't really work this way either. Normally I'd do the resistors on all the boards. But I think that, yeah, between the complexity of this build document and me being like slightly distracted by talking into a live stream, just taking it slow and careful on these because I don't want to screw it up. So 6.8K resistors in R1, which of course is not next to R2. But I found it anyway. 7.5 R22. $7.5K, there you are. What did I say, R22? Yep. There you are. Yeah, the board labeling does get pretty dense. It's fun. I've done some boards where like everything's laid out so directly you can just go down. It's like just totally numerically laid out, and some where they're all over the place. And I don't know, because this whole activity for me is just like chilling out and sort of meditating. Like in a way, I kind of like having to hunt for stuff. But then if I'm just trying to get stuff done, I don't always find that quite as fun. Depends on the day, I think. Today, I wish it was a little bit more straightforward. It's 22K. We got one. No, I read that wrong. 22K and R35. So one of these 22K is on this board, the other is elsewhere. If you weren't here earlier, I'm also recording this because I am going to make a more condensed version of this video, the way that I would normally do it. That video probably will end up on the Exploding Shed YouTube channel. They're pretty cool guys that I've been working with, based in Germany like me, so we've kind of become friends. Ah, I hate that. I always forget to turn off the multimeter, and then like 5 minutes after the last thing I did, it sends that warning beep and scares me. All right. 24K. Song that's playing right now. Yeah, this is like distinctly remember recording this. This is the first thing I ever recorded by myself on GarageBand in my little apartment in 2005-ish. And this part right here, I was playing the guitar with a screwdriver. Where was I? 24K. $24K, where are you? Buried, yep. Found it. Now, this must be fascinating, just me staring at another computer full of tiny numbers. Doing the best I can. I mean, typically, like, I really enjoy doing stuff on YouTube. Sometimes it's pretty stressful. And why I chose to learn how to do electronics publicly on YouTube is something that I will never quite understand, but I'm glad I did it. And this here, live streaming it, is just like a whole nother level of all of the things that I was kind of nervous about in the first place. 100K. Okay, 100K, we're back into familiar territory. Things that are multiplied by tens. Which means there's probably more of them. Yeah, there's 3 of them. So now I can do 3 in a row. Imagine that. It's like watching paint dry. 30, 32, and 50. Really? I do not see them. I really love this song. My buddy John, who was the singer in this band, yeah, and he owned the recording studio that we recorded this all at. And it was a full working studio. It was like back in the days where everything was pretty analog, you know? And we had like a huge tape machine in there, all sorts of stuff. He had so much equipment, and I think that like he knew he was going to be closing down the studio when he recorded this song, and like I can hear it in this song. But it's really good memories. Okay, so R50. It's not printed like a typical resistor. I mean, it is in a way. It's like a... What's going on there? I gotta read about this. So R50, hopefully, maybe this will show up on the stream. But that's the resistor there. It's got this big kind of like rectangular area with three holes, and it's got a line going to one of the holes that says P14 DC. Or is that a trim pot? It's not one of those again, is it? Yeah, damn it, I need to read that shit. Yeah, 100K vertical multi-turn trim pot. That was dumb. Okay, so we're not doing 100K resistors. That's why it doesn't look like a spot for a resistor. Okay, label those again. All right. $10, 100, and 40K resistors are 10 through 15. So everything, I think everything, almost everything left is 140K. That's good. 10 of them. So all but one. The track that's playing now was one that I recorded. It's kind of it was a January jam. But I had this crazy idea. I live in Heidelberg, Germany, right on the Marktplatz, so like right where everything is happening, and there's a big church right outside my window. And every hour it goes off, and like I'm really used to hearing the sound of the bells on that church. And I was working on this track and kind of saw that it was almost 10 p.m. So I waited and just kind of like timed it with my gut so that in the middle of this song the church bells would go off. And I started playing, and I had a couple of condenser mics pointed out the window, so you can kind of hear some people walking around on the street, somebody like picking up an empty bottle from a trash can, and then just like lined up where these church bells came in as I was playing, and it's almost like a duet with the church. I'm not saying that it's a particularly successful piece of music, but it was a successful piece of getting lucky and timing something really well, because I can never do that again. Yeah, and when I got to this spot, I was like anticipating it. I knew it was coming, but I wasn't really looking at the clock, other than when I started jamming this song. And when the church bells hit, I was just like, I was so happy. It felt so good. It's like one of those moments that you can never quite experience again, other than if you're me and you listen to this song. I'm not sure anybody else will really get that out of this song. Still got anyone around? Yeah. Thanks for sticking around, dudes. Dudettes. I don't know. It's really tough to know what's right in YouTube land. You know how like everyone starts their YouTube videos like, "What's up, guys?" Like, there's those bells, by the way. Yeah, like I don't want to do that. Like, my natural way of talking would be to say like, "Thanks, dude," but I'm aware that there are women watching. I don't think any women are offended by that, but like, I keep it in mind. I want to be kind of like inclusive in the language that I use. So when I'm not thinking too hard about it, then I speak casually and say, "What's up, guys?" Yeah. There needs to be more women in music production in general. And if me not doing a cliche, "What's up, guys," is just enough to kind of support that idea, then I'll stick with it. Man, this build guide is like a dissertation on how to design a module. I really, really want to read it. I was reminded because I've gotten to more of those resistors where you pick the square pad if you're doing a standard build, and later, if you feel like modifying it, you can go with the other pad to slightly change a parameter. Okay, are there any more resistors before I start soldering? Again, 10, yeah, of course there are. 390. 390. These ones, it's probably just easier to read the board than read the instructions. What is this? That might be a 390, but there's no way of telling. Unless I check it. And it is definitely not a 390. That is .81M. It's this one. Yeah, that's got to be it. That's it. Alright. So a couple spots for resistors that are labeled omit, which I'm assuming is just like these square hole or circle hole resistors, where maybe later on you can modify something about this by adding resistors in at certain points. But for now, we're omitting the ones that say omit. I need a 910 kilo ohm resistor. That is a very specific resistor. 910 kilo ohms. Is it? No. Is it? I don't think that's it. 0.9 M. I'm not thinking straight right now. What's that? 91. Okay. An M. That's a. I think that might be it. Circular Tonic, are you still here? Do you know if is a .92 mega ohms or 2.92 M, is that the same as a 91K? I think it is. It might be. It's the only likely candidate. No. Not this one, right? Yeah. That one's 91K. Okay. I guess that's the likely candidate. No, that's 91K. I need 910K. It's gotta be this. 0.9 M. That's definitely it. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And if I'm really wrong, maybe there's a fire. So 1000K is an M, right? Yes. Yes. Yikes. Okay. Where are we at? 820. Does that say 820K? Possibly. Probably, because this says 0.818 M. And on the logic that I used on the last resistor, I'm going to say that that's 820K. Cool, doggy. Alright. Omit that one, and that looks like it's all the resistors on this board. I think I'm only going to do this board on this stream, because this is a bit more complicated than I anticipated. And I certainly don't want to screw it up. Who knows? Maybe I'll change my mind. But there's no wisdom in like powering through a build when you're tired or you're hungry or you haven't read the instructions and you're trying to do it anyway because you turned on the live button. Right now I'm feeling confident. There's nothing here that's like got me scratching my head too much, but I didn't anticipate the instruction guide or like the build guide to be so dense. And that's kind of in the back of my head this whole time. That just want to make sure I didn't miss something. But on the other hand, PCB is labeled, so I'm pretty certain that everything that I put into a hole and soldered onto this PCB was supposed to go where it did. Sorry, I just went into a soldering hole. Is that what you call it? No. What would you call that? When you just get totally dazed out putting molten metal onto tiny copper pads. That's where I went. Maybe I'm just smelling the fumes, which, by the way, apparently you're not supposed to do. But I don't have an exhaust system. And I don't feel too guilty about it. Yeah, like I said earlier in the stream, the whole reason I started doing these DIY Eurorack modules on YouTube was not because I thought I knew what I was doing. It was like the total opposite of that. I thought to myself for years that I wanted to learn how to do this. And of course, like, I was lusting after, you know, all these beautiful Eurorack systems that I was seeing online. But like, yeah, I love learning stuff. Like, I like learning new skills. So I wanted to do DIY. I didn't want to just like spend money and have like this like flashy Eurorack system. And then I thought, since I already had this YouTube channel and was doing, you know, a little bit with it at the time, I had like a unique opportunity to make a series where like I start from just like absolute scratch. I don't know anything about this other than just, you know, like general common sense, and kind of like learn as I go along. And the reason I thought that would be cool is I thought that would be relatable for somebody that hadn't ever done any electronics like me, who was wondering over the course of a couple years, like me, how hard it was going to be. And yeah, I thought, you know, this is a cool opportunity to build something that might make this a little bit more accessible and relatable for somebody that doesn't know anything about making DIY electronic projects. So I hope this series that I've done over the last year has provided that for people, a few people at least, or it's provided some good humor for people that know what they're doing way better than I do. One or the other. Maybe both. Probably both. Right on. So that's resistors on board 3. 3 of 3. Now we need to do 1 and 2 of 3. But we will do those later. So yeah, I hope there's someone out there enjoying this. If not enjoying, particularly watching, some random dude stick wires into, what is this, fiberglass? At least I hope the music's okay. Because I made it. I made the music, so I hope you like it. Whew. What was that, like an hour and a half to do some resistors? Alright, what are we gonna do? Should I keep going? That's the big question. What do the instructions say? They say put lots of resistors on there. Then move to the what? Yeah, I was saying earlier that I think you can get like a sense of the personality of the designers of Eurorack modules by the way they write their instructions. And I think that the dude that designed the North Coast synthesis modules is a bit of a nerd, very thorough, but he knows his shit. Okay, so let's put some diodes on. Which ones? Don't even tell me which ones. I thought you were thorough. Which ones? D4 and D5. Maybe it says on the board. Nope.
So long ago.
Okay.
Gray skies were
Back to the bill of materials. Okay. It's those ones, right? 5818. Yeah. course, these diodes are polarized, so they gotta go on the right way. Not much to say about that. You probably already know that. If you don't, some parts need to go on a certain way. Be careful. Pay attention. That's how you build a Eurorack module. By not screwing it up. Alright. Did that. What else we gotta do? God, there's like 5 pages about the resistors. Caps. Install the 2. Really? C11, C16. 1 UF caps. Or no, 10 UF caps. Aha! My other camera ran out of a battery. This is the other part of making a YouTube video. When you're making a Eurorack module, so you always have to. There was a while that I didn't realize that I could turn on like this indicator sound on the camera, and so this thing would always shut off like when I was like halfway through something, and I'd miss a lot of footage. Then I figured out how to make it beep. Now it beeped because it wants a battery. And geez, man, so this has been like a stream of what, like hour and a half, maybe 2 hours of me doing these resistors. In the end, I'm gonna have like, I don't know, 3 to 5 hours 4K footage that I have to edit. See what I mean? Why did I ever bother doing this? It's a lot. It takes up a lot of memory and it takes a long time to put it together. Oh yeah, got a battery, but I forgot to press record. There we go. 10 UF. Probably this one. Yes, 10 UF. 1 of those, 2 of those. The positive leg goes in the square hole. Alright, what do you want me to do next? Trimmer pots. No, I am going to... I'm going to solder those before I move on to the trim pots. So like, I never quite released this album all the way. Put it on Bandcamp and stuff, and I put some singles on Spotify. And I was, or not Spotify, but you know what I mean. I used DistroKid to distribute this album. And I was putting it up as singles, and I was going to put it up as a full album. And partway through that process, it's not like DistroKid did anything or anything changed, but like I kind of started having doubts about DistroKid. I still can't quite articulate it. There's some things that I don't really love about DistroKid. So then I never finished putting the album out on Spotify and Apple Music and all that. So it's still there. I mean, most of it's up as singles, but this song did not ever get released to regular streaming services, which I will do soon. Actually, probably, because a friend of mine and I decided to start a record label, and we haven't told anybody about it. Really, a couple people. It's not a big secret, so I don't feel bad about saying it now. But we're doing that. So one of the things we'll do is probably just reissue this album, like as an actual full album all put together. But we got some other stuff that we're working on too. Okay, now we need the trim pots. So let's look at those. So how do I tell? I've never seen these. How are they labeled? That's a 100K. Okay. That would be R500. So 500 ohm. Okay. So you can tell. Good to know. So I need 200 ohm trimmer. R4. Does this make sense? R43. Yeah. Okay. So I think I can just read it off the board. That's easier. R2K. New. These are all 2Ks. That's good. There's a pattern. Same with this one. And that one. Good. 1K. Is there another 1K? That's 100K. 2K. Process of elimination. 100K. It's going to be the very last one that I pick up, probably. R200! Found it! Okay. Okay, so these have short little legs, but if I push it in there and just spread those legs apart, I can do it, and then they don't fall out. That's nice. It sucks when things fall out when you turn the board over. Did I say? I think I might have said spread the legs, and I didn't mean that to be suggestive, but now that I think back on it, I apologize. Oh, yeah, man. Live streaming. This is a totally new experience. I'm saying the most random shit. I don't usually talk this much. I don't know if you ever noticed that about me. But I'm not a super talkative guy most of the time. Alright, so I need another 2K.
Andoraner dichten ihm jüdische Charaktereigenschaften an. Andre will Tischler werden. Dieser hält ihn für nicht geeignet zu diesem Beruf und sagt, als Jude könne er besser Kaufmann werden. Das ist hier auch, als er sagt, viel Geld könnte er machen.
Oh man, we're almost there. I think it's pretty early in the US right now, but here in Germany it is 11:15. And I'm not tired, but I can see myself just getting to the end of this board and then waiting until tomorrow when I have more energy to do the rest of it, because this is a bigger build than I anticipated. Oh, and these are the ones that the instructions said to measure these and set these to halfway between their resistance values before soldering them. So if they're in the circuit and I do a test on them, I probably won't get an exact, no, I would get, it's a resistor. If I'm on either side of a resistor testing, then I would get the resistance and I would be able to adjust it. So I should be able to solder these and then test them. Right? I think so. Because I certainly don't want to adjust all of these trim pots in a live stream. That's stupid. I'm not going to. So where does that leave me? Putting a power header on. Got it. It goes this way. Okay. And that's it. So, soldering those trim pots and soldering up that power header is the last bits of this board. There are more pads on the board. Those, I imagine, would be for testing, programming. Nope, those are going to connect. That's what they're going to do. They're going to connect to the other board. Obviously. They go on the other side. So, no worries. No worries there. What are these? There's a couple here that are unlabeled. It says P. It says mix plus, mix minus. Power? The power stuff? DC? Yeah, that all looks like it's power related, but it doesn't have components in it. Mix in, mix A, mix C. What is going on? So we got the offsets on the corners. That's holding the boards together. Mix in, mix A, B, C, D, E. Those are the trim pots, I think. No? Yeah, I don't know. We'll find out. There's a lot more instructions to read. Okay. So, the power header, I always do one pin, then adjust it, and then reheat that pin so that I get the power header flat on the board. Oftentimes a piece of tape helps hold it in place until I can get that first pin soldered in. So that's what I'm going to do. Solder that one, get rid of the tape. Check it, make sure that it's flat on the board. There's a little bit of a gap, I think, so what you can do is carefully push with your thumb from the other side of the power header, but don't push the pin that you're heating up because it's going to get hot. Heat that up until you feel the pin slide and the whole power header gets flush to the board, and then you can solder everything up. And again, I'm just like, I start soldering and then I just like daze out because it's relaxing to me, which is why I do these in the first place. I forget that I should keep talking about totally random stuff. Alright, so there we are. I didn't solder in the trim pots because I am going to read that section in the instructions about measuring those with an ohm meter and calibrating them before soldering them. Make sure that I'm not doing anything wrong, which puts me at a weird spot because I can't realistically keep going on this build through probably a full nother board because it's getting late. So I think I'll cut it off for here. We just pretty much got to the end of this album anyway, so that's a nice moment to cut off a stream, I think. I hope that this was relatively interesting, relaxing, and yeah, I'm glad there was a few people here at certain points for sure, and yeah, I had fun with it, so I hope you had fun with it, and I'll probably do this again. So until then, I will see you. Cheers. Like and subscribe and stuff, because I'm on YouTube. Alright. Cheers, bye.